So the other day, I was in a conversation with 5, 6, 7 people sitting around a table somewhere. And you know how a phrase that someone says just kind of piques your interest, and then you hear them say it a lot? Maybe it's like someone's up in front doing a presentation and they say a lot. Maybe the third or fourth time I would hear it, I would tune into that, and then that's all my brain would hear. There were some interesting phrases that were used by the folks who were having this conversation, and I was a part of it. But one of the phrases that someone used in this conversation was, "Let me be honest." And I think he probably said it 5 or 6 times before I just got frustrated and tried to not hear it anymore. Let me be honest. Now, doesn't that make you think the same thing that I think? Why do you have to ask for permission, and why do you have to announce it? Is this like a new thing? Maybe he should use a better word. Let me be frank, or let me be blunt, or let me be direct, or something like that. But he picked the word honest. Come to find out a little bit later in the conversation, there might have been some good reason for him to say, let me be, for this moment in time, honest. Or another version of that phrase that started to pop up, because I started to keep track of these things, and it was kind of a sport for me during this long 3 or 4 hour conversation around the table. The next one that popped in my mind was a phrase, well, if I'm being honest. Okay, so what would it sound like if you were not being honest? And that's the kind of thing I say in groups and conversations. Maybe that's why I don't get invited out to dinner as often as I used to. Or maybe this is a phrase you might have heard before. Nothing personal, and then you know whatever follows is incredibly personal. Another fascinating phrase that's out there is got a minute? And the answer is usually, I only have 1 minute starting now, go. And that might be a little sarcastic, but got a minute usually means, can I have half of your day? Trust me is one that I've heard said quite a bit lately. I'm not really sure if it's because I'm just paying attention to it some more, but I've started to hear it quite a bit. Trust me, trust me. And I hear it and see it and versions of it in advertisements and in conversations, and when someone's trying to sell something, when someone's trying to persuade you to think differently, trust me, trust me. Usually a phrase follows it, like I know what I'm talking about, or I've been there and done that and got the t-shirt or something like that. Trust me. I'm fascinated by how that actually happens, the trust me thing. How does it really happen? So in another video that we've got linked here, we've talked about trust structures. We also have talked about in that video and others even before that, an idea called the locus of control mindset. Quick review of that, you've heard it before, but if not, it's brand new to you. It's a very simple idea, but very powerful. Our locus of control, the location of the control of the quality of our work and of our life, really is what we're talking about. So the locus of control can be divided into 2 mindsets, an internal mindset and an external mindset. Someone with an external mindset, a locus of control, believes that the control of the outcome of the quality of their work or of their life, or really of anything, is outside of their control. If it's raining, they have a bad day. If it's not, they have a good day. Well, they can't control the rain, so that would be an external locus of control mindset. My supervisor was nice to me, or my boss was mean to me, or something like that, or there was traffic or there wasn't traffic. You hear all those things that someone might use to describe the quality of their day or of their life or of their work. And if they are outside of their control, external to them, then they're worthy of blame if things don't go well. That's an external locus of control mindset. An internal locus of control mindset, much more powerful, but much more simple. We believe, and I have this mindset, you probably do too, or you wouldn't really be listening to this video, that the control or the levers for the quality of our day and of our life and of our work and of our relationships are within our control, but there's only 3 of them. Can't control everything. We can't control much, but we can, with some discipline and effort, we can control 3 things. We can control who we trust. We can control our perspective about something, how we choose to look at it without changing the facts on the ground. And we can control our behavior right here, right now. I can control my behavior right here and right now. Can't control yesterday, that's gone. Can't control tomorrow. I can plan for tomorrow, but tomorrow's not here yet. Right here, right now. Choices, choices, choices. I often tell people that one of the reasons why I wouldn't make a very good therapist, even though I'm a neuropsychologist, is that I wouldn't be able to listen to someone talk for very long without saying, you know, this is just a series of bad decisions, all this stuff that you're giving me here. You were in control of those decisions. Now you're in control of how to get out of those things. All right, so did you notice there in the locus of control, internal locus of control mindset, that there are 3 things, and the first of those 3 things is who we trust. So let's zoom in on that a little bit. Let's think a little bit more about who you trust, because it's essential that you're good at trusting as a leader or a manager or a supervisor or somebody who's influencing other people by your own example to do better and be better. It's really important that you're good at trusting. So we want to define trust really carefully. Often folks are sloppy, I'm sure I have been as well, with the definition of trust. When someone might say, we just don't trust, or we totally trust. We're thinking of it like an on-off switch on a light bulb. Well, it's not that at all. The definition of trust, as we really need to use it here and in many other places, is the ability to lean on or rely on or depend on for someone's perspective or opinion or help or anything, right? For whatever it is that we're trusting them for. When we trust others well, the results will take on at least 3 forms. When I trust you, I will be able to take what I'm trusting you for and start something, or stop something, or continue something that I was thinking about doing differently. Start, stop, or continue. That's usually the fruit or the result of trusting someone. But there's a problem. This is a big problem too. In our contemporary age, we are, most of us, marked by weariness, skepticism, and cynicism. Technology has a role in that, as you can well imagine. Connectivity, fostered by our technology, results in a near constant information flow. And the information is usually about the bad stuff, because that kind of stuff flows faster than the good stuff. We're also part of a fear industrial complex. That means many, many large organizations and corporations, maybe even many moves within government, federal, state, local government, are motivated by pointing out what's bad and what's fearful and what's dangerous. And they make money, or they gain power and control by creating fear in us. Because we're very, very easy to manipulate when we're afraid. Very easy to manipulate. How many times have you spent time or money, or both, because you were afraid? Now, you might think, well, I'm a grown-up, I don't get afraid. Well, you get nervous, you get anxious, you get frustrated, you get all of those things that are just fear turned way down. You worry. Well, it's easy to get you and I to spend time and money and energy on things when we're afraid or when we're worried. So the fear industrial complex is a real thing. Large corporations make a lot of money off of us when we're afraid. If we weren't afraid, they wouldn't make money, or they wouldn't make it as quickly, or they wouldn't make as much of it. So another contributor to this challenge we have of trusting people, aside from or beyond the fear industrial complex, is this influence culture, I like to call it, that we're a part of. There is an intense race to be seen as the next expert in a really overcrowded field of experts. The quickest way to top, I think, that list, at least for the moment, is to contradict the slightly more famous expert. Whenever someone comes out as an expert or a series of experts and says something is true, if you want to get more influence, you have to contradict them. You can't just draft behind them. That's this influence culture that we're a part of. You've heard of a bunch of these and experienced them all. There's a huge conflict of experts that leads to our cynicism and our skepticism, where one day the low-fat diet is the best way to go, and the next day the low-carb diet is the best way to go, and then back and forth and back and forth. We saw this same thing, this kind of disassembling and cynicism around expertise when the COVID-19 pandemic rolled through our globe. And I think that perhaps that pandemic may have done more damage to expert opinions, scientific findings, than anything in history. Remember masks? There were experts that said masks work and experts that said they don't. The very same experts said they worked and then turned around months later and said they don't. Not even going to talk about vaccines. You know how this all works. I'm trying to make a point simply, though, by illustrating that we are in an age where for people to get good at something, to get recognized, to be valuable, they have to be seen as an expert, and the fastest and easiest route to doing that is to contradict other experts. The net result of that is it leaves us all cynical. There is no truth, we start to feel like. We can't trust any expert. This is a problem. Another example might be mandatory minimum wage and the effects of those minimum wage. The effects are clear. Now they've been tried. The minimum wage has gone up and up and up and up and up to an incredibly high level in many places and in many states right now, much higher than it was just a few short years ago. Not just keeping pace with inflation or cost of living. It's significantly higher. And some experts will say that mandatory higher minimum wages improves the quality of life. Well, it does for the people getting that wage. Other experts say, yeah, but what that does is it decreases the quality of life for people who now no longer have a job because the employer can't afford to hire as many people, but they'll hire technology instead. You see how those experts are clashing like that? No jobs for some and higher living, standard living for others. Climate science is the same kind of thing. One perspective, very popular, very clearly and well put and studied, is that the Earth is extremely sensitive to high CO2 levels. Another leading group of experts says exactly the opposite, at the very same time looking at the same information, that it's not sensitive to high levels of CO2. Remember Hooked on Phonics? This is my last illustration. Remember Hooked on Phonics? Some experts were saying that it was the very best thing you could possibly do to teach a kid how to read. And then right on the heels of that, other experts came out and said it was the worst way to possibly teach kids how to lead. What's going on in there in some way and at some level, I'm certain it's not true of everyone's motive, but the net effect of this is that we have experts battling against one another, coming out and saying polar opposite things, often looking at the very same information, which causes those of us who did not do those studies, who have in past relied on experts, to think, well, maybe there is no expertise. We become cynical. So there's a death of mystery that happens in this as well. There's the idea that everything worth knowing has to be able to be measured. And then we end up in this connected society, numb to the pain and suffering of other people. We dismiss the pain and suffering of other people far and near with a cynical, that's nothing, been there, done that attitude, and that causes us to be lackluster in our compassion, if have it at all. This perspective can really hinder the experience of genuine, full life in relationships. So it is fascinating that we have all of this has resulted in, for many folks, perhaps even you as a leader, and a loss of mental and emotional capacity to trust people. There's a cynicism that can damage the very capacity we have for trust, which will eventually lead to a passivity and a resignation in life. Well, there's nothing I can do about it. I guess I'll just float along. I won't do what I need to do, because what good is it? You can't trust anybody anyway. Here's a little bit of a side thought here. This is a fast one. There are 5 really hazardous attitudes in aviation. As some of you may know, I'm a pilot and always learning how to fly better. And so we learned right away, early on, as we're learning how to fly, that there are 5 really bad attitudes that I could have. And if I have them, they could get me killed. Notice how much these fit the cynical culture that we're in right now. The first one is called anti-authority attitude. It means, I always know better. Ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do. The next hazardous attitude is impulsivity. I don't think through, I don't follow checklists or wisdom. I just, very impulsive. The next one is invulnerability. That's an attitude that I would have as a pilot that says, well, I'm invulnerable. That doesn't mean me. Physics doesn't work on me. There's another one, overconfidence, or a macho or a machismo attitude. I am better. The rules really don't apply to me. And then there's the resignation mindset. That's the mindset that says, wow, there's nothing I can do, especially in a hazardous situation. If the plane is in danger or the flight is in danger or I'm in a storm, I just give up. There are many, many aviation accidents that have happened. It was very clear that the pilot just gave up. The antidote to that, of course, that we're all taught as pilots is to make sure you fly that airplane all the way to the hangar. Don't just get close to the ground or close to the end and just give up and become passive. Passivity is the main thing that's happening in a cynical culture. So we want to be very, very careful. And my main thesis of this conversation with you is that although trust is hard, you and I as leaders and managers and influencers and supervisors of people still need to trust. We are designed to be able to trust. But in a skeptical and cynical age, perhaps we would do well to relearn how to trust, and then to learn to trust well. Because trust in any enterprise is the great exponential multiplier of all of our endeavors. Leaders, managers, supervisors like you, those with responsibility to create the future, must be good at trusting. We need to trust the right people for the right things at the right time. It's essential. If someone says to me in an interview process, well, I have a hard time trusting, or in a casual conversation, it's super hard for me to trust people, I think you're not going to be effective in building a team. You're not going to be effective in leading people because you've got to be able to trust. Well, as we wrap this up, how do you know who you can trust? A few simple thoughts here. We'll look at the fruit of their life, because the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. You're going to know the kind of tree it is by picking up the fruit. Look at the fruit of their life. Look at their relationships. Look at what they've done. Look at what they've not done. That's how you know if you can trust somebody. If it's an apple tree and there's an apple on the ground under it, you can trust the apple tree to produce apples, right? The second thing I want to look for is, are they humble? That's somebody who's confident in their ability to learn, confident in their ability to work and to have grit. They're confident in their ability to manage their own emotions, but they're also wildly curious about how things really are. Confidence, curiosity, put together, that's humility. Are they humble? Do they lead with what they know, or do they lead with what they don't know? That's humility. Another thing that enables us to determine if we can trust somebody is, do they have an accurate view of their own limits? Can they say to you, trust me with this, but you probably shouldn't trust me with that? You ever hear somebody talking like that? That's probably a trustworthy person. Another one is their motivation. Do they have an inward mindset and they're motivated by me and protecting me and my own comfort and my own reputation? Or do they have an outward mindset? Are they about we and about the mission? And you want to know, how does someone benefit when I trust them? What is the benefit there? And then last test, how do you know? How do you know the things you say you know? How do you know that? And you can test them by also noticing their reaction when they're told no. So are they a growth-oriented person or a fixed-oriented person? Do they always want to grow? And do they have a burning mission or passion or something that is their central core in their life that compass just keeps coming back to? I've also found, last thought here, that folks who are worthy of trust, I can trust them specifically for this in this way, I can trust them for that. They would never ask me to trust them for that, are people who have a great sense of humor. Their humor is such that it leans toward optimism and it creates courage in other people, rather than humor that makes people feel smaller and pessimistic and weaker and blamed. All right, so how do you even know if you're not good at trusting as a leader? Well, simple ideas. You've become cynical and skeptical. Number two, you say, if you want a job done right, do it yourself. Inwardly and outwardly, probably. or maybe you say things like, you just can't get good help nowadays. The fourth way you know is that you don't delegate. The fifth way is that you're wildly overworked and you're probably burning out, or maybe even getting a little bit bitter. The sixth way you know is you manage by handing out details and tasks, and you expect things to be done in an order that you set them up. You hand out tasks instead of delegating results. Seventh way is you're a bottleneck. The eighth way, you're not getting results. And the ninth way, you're probably not having fun. Well, this was fun to think about and put together for you. Trust me. Perhaps it's time to take control of who you trust, to get better at picking people who you can trust and then actually trusting them. Trust me. You'll be glad you did. Here's to you. Take care.